سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. نوينا التعلم والتعليم وتذكر وتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك علما لدني ومشرب صافي الهاني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك علما لدني ومشرب صافي الهاني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك علما لدني ومشرب صافي الهاني يا وهاب يا غني. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. Amin amin ya rabbal alamin. Okay, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. We're continuing our book on we're continuing our book on Adila Al-Sunnah wal Jama'ah and on the proofs of Al-Sunnah wal Jama'ah as a commentary on point number 15 in Khuluquna, which is that to clarify for those who require, those who sincerely are requesting for clarification, in things, Islamic matters, to clarify them calmly, right? So just to, open up the topic and to speak to them about it, but not to engage in argumentation. Right? We should know the difference between discussion and argumentation. Discussion, basically, you're just sharing facts, right? And you're not going back and forth in arguing with someone, right? So if someone begins to argue, then stop the conversation, right? So just or just say that if you're gonna argue, then I'm not gonna continue. I don't really want argumentation. I just want to just share the information, right? So there's no, to avoid argumentation. It's on the common person, right, to actually really, really avoid argumentation to do with the religion, right? Between the scholars, the ruling is makruh, right? Between scholars of this religion, it is disliked, right? That there is any form of argumentation with regards to laws of the religion, right? Between the general public, right, a common person who's not a scholar, you and me, right? It is haram, and the ruling is haram, right, to go into argumentation about the religion. Why? Because as we know, in the world that we live in, when people engage in argumentation, right, it's not necessarily the one who sort of, you say wins the argumentation, is on the, is on the truth, or is correct. No, definitely not. Definitely not. We live in the world of lawyers. Like, it is that the one who's more eloquent, or the one who's more forceful, or the one who actually really likes to argue. Right. So subhanAllah, Imam Shafi'i said, that he could win anyone in argumentation, amongst the scholars, right? But if you were to start to argue with someone who's an ignoramus, or a foolish person, like, he would never win the argument, because the way, like, first and foremost, they argue in such a ridiculous way. And also they're very forceful and hostile in the argumentation, that people like Imam Shafi'i, they just back down. Right? But them backing down doesn't mean they're losing the argumentation. It's just that they don't want to engage, in such behavior. Right? So this is the danger of argumentation, that think people think that they want so-called, the argumentation, just because the other person, backs down and doesn't want to engage. I know someone, this person, Allah, protect us and bring them back. Where this person, has left the religion. And subhanAllah, this person is a very argumentative person, like really argumentative person, and I know that this person, engaged with certain people, about Islam. And first and foremost, they will only engage with people who have no knowledge, right, or very little knowledge. And secondly, because they're so aggressive in the way they argue, that normal common people tend to not want to engage, right? Because it's so aggressive. And they will take it that just because people don't want to engage with them in argumentation, they will take it that, oh, they are right. Oh, like they won, so-called they won, right, the argument. And that led them to being so arrogant, and led them to leaving the religion altogether, murtad. And subhanAllah, right? This is the danger. Okay, so that's why the adab, Habib spoke about this adab, right? Of really staying clear of argumentation, right? Staying away from, and it's subhanAllah, with matters of the religion, stay away from argumentation. With matters of dunya, right? Also try your best to stay away from argumentation. For me personally, like, I get very stressed. Right? When someone begins to argue with me, I get very, 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 very stressed. And even if it's a child who begins to argue with me, I guess the kids they know it. I get very upset like if they begin to argue with me and they will stop, right? They will stop. So I can't, like, I really wonder what parents you allow your kids to argue with you. This would never happen with me. Like, they won't dare argue with me. But they know it's bad adab, it's bad adab, it's bad etiquette to begin to argue with someone, your teacher, your parent, to begin to argue, especially when it comes to matters that you should just perform, right, and not argue your way through. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. It is not the trait of the righteous. The righteous do not argue. Tamam. It is a trait of the hypocrites, by the way. It's a hadith. It's a hadith. Right? It is a trait of the hypocrites. Right? They engage in argument. Even worse, they engage in argument while they are ignorant. Right, the seven words. Okay, tamam. Now we are in the section on Ziyarat al-Qubur, right, on visiting the graves. So we are going to discuss a few matters around the graves, okay? So first and foremost, what is the ruling of visiting graves? Okay, very clearly, the ruling of visiting graves is sunnah. Okay, sunnah, sunnah, and I'll give the proofs. Like for both men and women. It's just that with regards to following the janazah, be very clear, okay? Going to the graves to visit those who have passed away is sunnah, okay, on both men and women. From the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whereby he said, I used to prevent you from visiting the graves, but visit them now, for they remind you of the akhirah. Right? Another hadith, narrates the dua the Prophet sallallahu would say when he entered into al-baqi at the grave. Right? He would say, Assalamu alaikum dar qawmi mu'minin atakum ma tu'adun ghadan mu'ajjilun wa inna insha'Allah bikum lahiqun Allahumma ighfir li ahli baqi' al gharqad. Right, so it's a dua that Rasul would say. There are many narrations of what he would say, and many narrations of him going to the grave, right, and making dua for the people in the grave. Right, so many narrations of him doing that. And Sayyidina Aisha finding him, in the night, right, by the graves, making dua for the people, in the graves. Right. The ruling of going to visit the graves is sunnah. Okay, I'm going to differentiate. It's not here in the book, but I'm going to differentiate this because it's something that is lost in our zaman, or unknown in our zaman, which is a woman following janazah. Right, following janazah means someone just passed away. Right, if someone just passed away, right, it is the men who follow the janazah. It is sunnah mu'akkada. It is highly emphasized sunnah. Right, it's a very highly emphasized sunnah. It is of the rights of the believer or a believer, right, that they follow the janazah to the grave. Right, when someone passes away, right, to actually follow, right, the janazah, right, you say, I don't know what they call it in English, like the entire, you know, you follow the janazah, right, to the grave. This only applies to men. Okay, only applies to men. Women do not follow janazah. Like we live in a zaman where I've seen women, so many women, like entire busloads of women following the janazah to the grave. No, that is not permissible. It is not permissible in our zaman. I mean, not in our zaman. It's not permissible in our religion. Like, but in our zaman, so many women are ignorant about this. And even worse, they could even be someone who's a widow. Right, so that her husband just passed away. She's a widow. She's in her iddah, right? 4 months, 10 days of death, right? 4 months, 10 days of death. She's not allowed to leave her house unnecessarily. She's not allowed to leave her house unnecessarily. Following the janazah of her husband to the cemetery is not permissible on her. She has to stay at home. And all the women, like, why are you also busybodies, and following the janazah to the cemetery? Stay in the house. Don't follow to the cemetery. It's the man's job. There's a man's area, the man's duty. It's not your duty, not your job. What are you gonna do there? Dig the grave. No lah, right? I mean, What are you gonna do there? A woman, stay in the house and do the Quran and do the zikr and do the tahleel and do, do the acts of worship. For the deceased person, to give us a gift. I don't go and be a busybody and like keep and just go and follow the janazah, not knowing the law, just following. So I'm just going to make it very clear to people that following janazah is not permissible, right, for women. But it is highly, highly encouraged, right, for men. Okay, right, and especially in our zaman where women and men freely mix, right? So there's this unnecessary ikhtilat, right? Free mixing, right, at the grave. This hurts the deceased person. Okay, it hurts the deceased person when there is free mixing of men and women, and also that the angels will stay away when they see free mixing. So, women, if you truly love the people in the person who has passed away, don't go and follow the janazah. Let the angels follow and let the men follow. But you stay put in the home. Don't go anywhere. Just stay in the home and be a comfort to the family who's left behind, be a comfort, especially to the widow, who is there. And widows, ya Allah, we need to say this to people. The loss of idda, in our zaman being ignored. Loss of following janazah also have been forgotten, been ignored. That's why I'm saying it right now, because apparently many people do not know this law. Right, Edda. People think that Edda, that they someone was texting me because I was mentioning about the woman here, Uwais, whereby she's going to Edda, and I was mentioning in Tarim, like how beautiful the culture in Tarim. Every Thursday, when a woman is going through Edda for 4 months and 10 days, every Thursday the women of the community will come to the house of the woman, the widow, right? And they would do stars and keep her company. Not just every Thursday, but they do it regularly through the week. They do like the hadra there. They do the stars on Monday mornings. They do, like they do burda there. They do like several. They do many things in the house of the widow, like just to keep her company. And I was mentioning this, and someone texted me after that. I she was like saying that, I was so shocked as to how ignorant people are with regards to iddah, and the laws of iddah. And how ignorant people think it's some, culture or people of the past. No, this is in the Quran. It's in the Quran itself. The law is Quranic, and it's in the Quran itself, where Allah says, and for the one, right, who passes away, and left behind his wife, for her to stay in the home for 4 months and 10 days, especially if her needs are being met, right? Somebody, has somebody is serving her and has met her needs, like her son, her brothers, whoever, around her, of the men, right? To, support her while she stays in the home, right? She has no need to leave the home, right? But in our context nowadays, today, it's very hard for people to just quit their job, or to stop going for their work if they're working, right? So then there is a leeway there, but they're only allowed to just go to their job. They're not allowed to dress themselves up. They are to wear, like dull clothing, not dressed up. They're allowed to go to their workplace, to fulfill their commitments and responsibilities, and then come home straight away without going anywhere. Right? That is some this leeway that has been, given in our zaman. But of course, if you have no need to go out, then don't go out. Like the law is you're not allowed to go out. There's a law. You're not allowed to go out. Right? So people, they wonder why someone doesn't come for a wedding, or someone doesn't come for a gathering, or why someone doesn't come, for Eid. She's on her iddah, for goodness sake, subhanallah, for Allah's sake. She's on her iddah. This iddah of divorce as well, which is completely not respected. The iddah of divorce, right? Which is 4 cycles. Right, actually three cycles, like 3 cycles. No, like we are in the zaman, people don't care about these laws, and these laws are in the Quran, and they're not even like you say, oh, there's a, like, ijtihad or something. No. These are clear cut laws in the Quran. And people don't care about these laws. They just don't care. They just, they bash through everything. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. Because as went through it, because I think there's a need to speak about it. Right. It was to the extent that, when I was there was one time, um uh the law is law. The law is law. The law, there is no qaid. Qaid meaning there is no condition for the law. The law is law. The law is that you are not the one who's on Adda, the law is she's not to dress herself up, and she's not to leave the house, and she's not to be in the presence of non-mahram. I've seen people who come to the janaza, men, right, and they enter into the room of the widow. You're not mahram to the widow, right? But they enter into the room of the widow, right? Some of them they don't even know what is mahram, and they salam everybody, right? Salam the widow, salam everybody, and you're not mahram to her. You're not mahram, right? She's your uncle's wife, your grand uncle's wife. She's not mahram to you, right? People don't know the laws, right? So there is no ruling that you're attractive, unattractive. No, there's no rules about that. It just says that you're not allowed to go out, you're not allowed to dress up yourself, right? So the laws stand. That's what I was saying. That it is ignorance. It is pure ignorance on the law. It's pure ignorance. You're not allowed to leave your house, regardless of how you look, regardless of whether you think you're old and unattractive. No, it's not about that. And the law is the law. You're not allowed to leave the house. And now in our zaman, it will extend, right? Into going into technology, like and meeting people through technology, through meeting men, and meeting men through technology. All of that is not allowed because all of that falls under leaving the house. In a sense, getting involved with other people, other men, and other men, right? In this zaman. Question here: how about going to the masjid, the cemetery? So nowadays, they don't go back to the house. So, okay, to the masjid, yes, you can go to the masjid, the cemetery, you can stay there, but not follow to the grave. Okay, not fall to the grave. All right. Yes, you can stay by the masjid, right, the cemetery, right. There was, I didn't mention this before. There was one time my grand uncle passed away, right, and then we were at the house somewhere in Tampines, right, with my grand uncle that passed away. So me, our family, we were there, like, and it was during Shawwal he passed away. Right, so I was gonna go to Clementi, my in-laws are in Clementi. I was gonna go to Clementi. My cousin's Ramardia, she was going to go also in that direction towards Jurong, right, towards Jurong, in the west of Singapore, right? So they had a bus chartered to bring the janazah, to the grave, right, which is at Chuchukang, in the west side, right? So me and my cousin, we were like, because the bus was kind of like, I'm not filled. There was pieces in the bus, right? And then we were just discussing, actually, you know what, it would really save us a lot of time if you could hitch a ride, like with the bus, right, from the house in Tampines, right, to bring us to the west side of Singapore. Like it would just save us so much time right, to just hitch a ride because we were both going to the west, right? And then I still remember us discussing, and we were like, but people might think that we are following the janazah, and like we are these like, and they might think that they might not see it as they might think that it's okay, right? There's responsibility, of being ustazahs, right? That people see what you do and they take it as a ruling. Right, so eventually we didn't follow the bus, right? Even though we really wanted to get the bus, the hitch a ride from the house in Tampines all the way to the west of Singapore, right? But we left it. We didn't follow the bus out of fear that people see us entering the bus and they think we're following the janazah, right? Whereas we're not. We're just trying to hitch a ride. Right? But people don't know that. They don't know it's orientation, right? And they might think that, oh, look at these ustazas, that they're actually following the janazah, and they might think it's permissible. No, it's not permissible. Right? It is not permissible. Right? So we took a train just to avoid that fitna that people might think that we are actually following janazah. We are not following janazah. We're just trying to get to the west side of Singapore, right? But we took train eventually. We took a train just to avoid the fitna. It's just to mention that. But to follow, but to go to the grave afterwards. So you're not so following the deceased person to the cemetery itself, right, and to the grave sites of the deceased person, like that is haram, haram on women. Okay, in the Shafi'i Mazhab is haram, right, on women. It is highly encouraged on men. Tamam. But later, when everything is all done and the deceased person is all buried and it's all there's no like procession there, then it becomes sunnah. The ruling becomes sunnah, right, for women to go and visit the graves, to go and visit your parents, to go and visit your relatives, those whom you love, right, and to make it a habit in your children, right, to go to the graves regularly, right, to go to the graves regularly. Some will go to the graves every Friday. Every Friday, said Fatima Zahra, she used to go to the graves of people of Uhud every Saturday, right? So we know that there is they will do a routine when they go to the grave. So once a week, if you can't do once a week, you go once a month. I know my parents will go once a month, and I'll follow them. Once a month they'll go and see their own parents and relatives around. I personally also, will try my best to go whenever I'm in Singapore. I will try to go and visit my grandmother, visit the people that you love, do fatihas for them, do yasins for them, just visit them. I visit them, and they know who has come to visit them. All right, put in effort as how you would go and visit them when they are alive, right? Still go and visit them when they have passed away, especially those who are close to you. Um, right? Right. So the thing about it is that how do you advise women, the wife and the female children, right, about following the janazah? This is the thing. This is the thing. That's why we're doing it now when no one has passed away yet. The best time is really to speak about it before the person has passed away, before they're actually in a state of grief. I know it's very hard to say it, right, to people who just lost a loved one and they really want to follow the janazah to the grave, right? It's very hard to say the ruling because they're in a state of grief, right? That is why we say it now. I say it now when no one's in a state of grief. Say it now. I tell people now, right? When there's no grief going on, right? But in a state of grief, you can gently say to them, especially the widow, right? Gently, remind the widow you are in Edda, that you need to stay behind. It is better for your deceased husband, right? It is closer to righteousness. The angels are following his janazah. That you leaving, the house is, going against the laws, and is causing for the angels to go away, right? Because they are leaving the house, they're going against Islam. Like this woman, they're causing the angels to go away because the angels will not follow, if there is disobedience. Okay, so but people don't know the things that they're not trying to be disobedient. They don't know the law, so we need to say to people, right, the law. Okay, right. So the merit for today's prayer seen for deceased home and the graveyard is the same. In a sense, the reward goes to the deceased person, the same reward. It's just that they see you. All right. So it's like when you go to the grave, it's like you go into their house, right? So, like for example, you can see the difference, like you staying at home with me making dua for your grandmother, for example, which is alive. For example, if your grandmother's alive, right? And you stay at home, we making dua for your grandmother. If the dua is accepted, Allah will, inshallah is accepted, and the dua reaches Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for your grandmother. Like, and you actually going to her house, giving salams to her, right? Spending time with her, like, and then you saying a dua in front of her. You see the difference, right? Both are accepted, right? But the second one, you bring happiness to her heart that she sees you. You get it, right? It's family. It's family. It's just the rahim, right? So you go to her house, you sit with her, and you can see her happiness that you have come. And all people have that, and this is something that is beautiful in Islam, that Islam, encourages this. It encourages the spending time with all people. It really matters to them that people come, right? And people sit with them and talk to them. Right? It really matters to them. They shouldn't be too busy, with this. Like my mother, mashallah, she would still go and visit, all the elderly people in my grandmother's generation, whether they're in-laws, whether they're whoever they are, she will make it a point. Once a month she'll call them, she'll go and see them, right? She'll make it a point. And I'm always amazed at how she really follows this up, never too busy, right, to spend time with the elderly, especially in your family. Right. So really, like really, put in the effort. I put in the effort for it. Teach your children. I teach your children the importance of going to see the elderly. So all the important things, right? And then thereafter teach them the importance of going to the grave. And so that's the main difference. There's a main difference. Reading Surah Fatiha is very easy in your home for someone's passed away of your family, and going to the grave. The difference is that, it's the same as doing dua, away from them and doing dua in front of them, right, in their houses. Okay, it's just this is basically the difference, right? They are happy, right? They are happy in their graves, knowing who has come to see them, right? Or not to see them, but to visit them, in their graves. I know in Singapore the graves are like all the way to Chicago. It's all the way on the west of Singapore. But put in effort lah. Like put in effort, right? To put aside some time, at least once a month. I try to try your very best, to go and visit visit those who have passed away, right? It matters to them. There are many stories. There are many stories of people who come to the grave, and there are people who are being punished or being tortured in the grave, right? And then those who come to the grave send salams and send salawats, right? Send salawats, unto Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and by the salawats, mercy descended onto the graves, and the people in the graves were all forgiven, right? And the punishment was removed. Mm. Right. So the ruling of going to visit the grave, right, it is sunnah. Right, it's sunnah. Right, it is encouraged. Right. What is the wisdom behind going to the grave and the wisdom of seeing the graves? The wisdom, of course, very obviously, to remind you of the akhirah, right? To remind you of the reality of your existence. That is the hikmah, right? And for you to remember those who have passed away. Okay, remember those who have passed away. And really, it just takes one, two generations of people, and people are forgotten. Do you realize that? Right? And look at let's just reflect on ourselves, right? The graves that our grandparents used to visit, do we visit? And our grandparents, maybe they used to visit their grandparents' graves, or their own parents' graves. Our grandparents, for example. Like, do we go and visit our own great grandparents? Do we? Most of us we don't, right? Most of us we don't. It just takes one or two generations, and a person is no longer visited. Halas, you're forgotten. Right? You're forgotten. It's one, two generations. Subhanallah, may Allah have mercy on us. Right. So usually it's just the children of those people, right? And then the grandchildren, right, of those people. Right. Usually people who actually know these people, right? Then they get forgotten. And the khalas, it's gone. Right? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on us. Um right. So what is the best way to visit the graves? The adab and the etiquette of visiting the graves. First and foremost, it is sunnah to be in wudu. If you're gonna go visit the graves, right, perform wudu. Right, sunnah to be in wudu, right? It is sunnah for you to come close to the grave of the person as how you would do so when the person is alive. All right. So whoever the person is, how you are around the grave of that person, right? It should be how you are around that person when they are alive. Okay, and there are narrations of Sahaba companions who go to the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they will throw their bodies on that grave, and they throw their bodies on that grave, and they will weep and weep and weep and weep. I got some of them, they're so close to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that they will hug him. When they see him, they will hug him. So there are those who did, or they put their forehead on the stone of the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they will weep and weep out of missing him, out of just pure, yearning and missing the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? So, and of course, to have mercy on people, right? When you see people at the grave and they're weeping and weeping and weeping, it's not the time to kind of like tell them haram, halal. People are grieving. I have this, humanity in yourself, right? So if it's not haram, what they're doing, if it's makruh, it's not haram, and let people be, in their grief, and stop. Don't like, be someone who's ruining, understanding the states of people. People are grieving, right? So this is a very sensitive issue, this entire grave issue, because people just they've lost their loved ones, right? So personally, to understand, right? So you are to behave around the grave as how you would behave around the person, right? So if you're going to a grave of someone who's not mahram to you, some of the companions when they come to the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they will keep a slight distance from the grave as how they would do when he is alive, right? In full honor, respect, and awe of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So even when he was alive, they would not come so close, but they would just lower their heads, and they'll keep a distance, a slight distance from him sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as a form of respect and awe. So even after he's passed away, they will not go so near the grave, but they will just keep a distance, in that way. Which later on, we're going to the law of actually touching and wiping graves, right? What's the law of that? I mentioned yesterday, it is makruh. The answer is makruh. It is actually, disliked, right, to touch and wipe graves, unless it is a person who is mahram to you, right, like your mother, your father, your grandfather, someone who you're actually close to, right, to come close in that way. When someone who's not your mahram, and you don't like wipe and touch the graves, it's not haram. If someone wants to do it, they may do so, right? But there's a karaha, and there's a makruhness around it. I personally don't like people taking pictures of graves. I don't like I don't know. I think it's distasteful to take pictures of graves. But it's not this. It's not impermissible. It's not impermissible. You can take pictures of graves if you want to. A lot of things in Islam is just permissible. That's just permissible. But because things are haram, things are permissible until they are proven haram. That's a principle in Islam. Okay, things are permissible until proven haram. You gotta because by default, right, everything is permissible, right, until you can prove that they are haram, that they're impermissible to do. Tamam. Right. So then you come to the adab of going grave, the adab of going grave, right? To take wudu, right? And then to come near the grave is how you come near the person in their lifetime. And then to sit down and then to recite, send salam to the person. I send salam to the people in the grave. The best form of sending salams is the one from the Prophet ﷺ. So memorize. I memorize the formulation of salams, or for the people of the grave, right? And then sit down and then recite Surah Fatiha. Usually we recite Surah Fatiha, we recite Ayatul Kursi, we recite 11 times Ikhlas, Falaq, Nas, right? And then you recite Yasin. Right? And all of what you need to recite is in the Ba'alwi app. If you're the Ba'alwi app, you can search under Visiting of Graves what to recite. And you can see the things to recite, right, for to the people in the grave. Now, so it is encouraged. It is encouraged to recite Quran around the grave, right? And the proof of this, let's go to the proof of this, okay? The proof of reciting Quran around the grave. There was once Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam walked past two graves, and his face changed. His face became pale, right? And he said, the two people in these graves, right, they are being punished, and not for something you might consider to be big, right? As for the first one, he's being punished, right, because he was a namam. He was someone who would spread tales between people and make them fight. As for the second one, he's being punished in the grave because he was negligent about his urine. Right? There are people who are negligent about urine. Right? So they urinate and they don't actually istibra min al-bawl. They don't actually clean themselves in a way that the urine is completely, removed, right? But there are people who do it very quickly, especially men, right? Men in their private organ, the urine actually stays. It's like a pipe, like the pipe. When you're on a pipe, right, and you're off the pipe, okay, you leave it there for a while, might drip, leave it there for a while. After it stops dripping, give the pipe a shake. Will more, water come out? Yes, correct, because the water sticks to the walls of it clings onto the walls of the pipe, right? So the urethra, right, where urine comes out through, if I remember biology correctly, and the urethra is where the urine actually, the droplets actually kind of stick to the walls of the urethra. So you think you're done. You're not done. And when you get up, in fact, even from the hadith, Shaitan sits there and he holds on to a few drops of urine. And when you get up and you put on your pants, right, he lets go of these drops and it falls into your underwear and you walk around with najis. And you want to pray, you want to this, you want to that, and you have najis on you, right? So it is for a person to do like a dry cough 3 times to have the urine fully come out. And those who don't fully remove free themselves of urine is one of the reasons of the punishment in the grave, one of the reasons of punishment in the grave, right? So Rasulullah said, these two people are being punished, right? One for tail bearing and the other one for not cleansing himself from urine when he goes to the bath. So then Rasulullah said to the companions, bring me, a plant, a green plant. That means a live green plant. And he was brought a live green plant. And then he split the plant into two. And it was a live green plant. He split it into two. And he placed one stalk above each grave. Right. And then he said that these plants, right, they do zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? The plants, they do zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And by the zikr of the plants, Allah's mercy descends on the people of the grave, right, in hope that the punishment is removed. Right? That's why he placed the plants, he planted the plants. As long as these plants are alive, right, before they dry up, and while they are fresh and alive, they are doing a zikr. These persons are doing dhikr, and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends on the graves. Right. So from here it's understood, right? It's understood that if we can take plants who do dhikr, and place them on the grave, and by the words of the Prophet ﷺ, the people in the grave benefit from the dhikr of these plants, then what do you think about a human being who's sitting there reading the entire Quran, reading Surah Yasin, right? By the grave, how much of Allah's mercy is going to descend on the people in the grave? So even if the reward of Ayatul Kursi, or the reward of Fatiha, or the reward of Isra Ikhlas, or the reward of your La ilaha illallah, your Tahleel, or the reward of Astaghfirullah, or the reward of Salawat, or the reward of Quran, even if the reward of these things do not, reach the person in the grave, even if, and I'm saying if, it's a big if, because it does reach, but even if you take the argument of people say that, oh, the reward doesn't reach them, okay, even if the reward reaches you, right? But the reward, but the doing of these acts of obedience brings about the flow of mercy, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the rain of mercy from the sky, right? So even if the reward is not transferred to the deceased person, even if it's a big if, because it is transferred, right? But even if you take the argument that people say, oh, it's the reward is not given to live in the grave, and what's wrong with that? If it's not given, then it's given to me lah. The one who did, right? What's wrong with that? I get reward. It's all good, right? It's all good. But even then, the mercy from the sky comes down. The mercy comes the sky comes down, and it showers not just on the grave that you're at, but the entire cemetery. Because Allah is al Kareem. Allah is all generous. Allah is all merciful. Allah is all giving. Allah is al Kareem. Allah can give the whole cemetery His rahmah, and by that instant, everyone's forgiven and the punishment is lifted, as we know incident stories, right? Of the awliya, ancestors of the awliya. It is not mentioned in this book because this book is going to focus only on what is sahih, of hadith, from the Prophet ﷺ. But there are many stories. If you believe in the awliya stories, there are many stories of awliya. When they go past the grave, they send slawats on the Rasulullah ﷺ, right? And just by them saying slawats while they're walking past the grave, right, it caused for the people in the grave to be forgiven completely of their sins, and raised into levels in the hereafter. And there's stories about this. I took this story, I think, in the kids class. One of the kids class, I took the story. Oh yeah, next week we're gonna have class. I think I'm gonna push myself on this. Because it's the June holidays, right? So I'm thinking every weekday, Monday to Fridays, 10 o'clock. Because last year I did it also. I was teaching hadith for children. So I was thinking just do it this year again. I missed December because my mini exams were in December, so I couldn't do it. But June, like I'm still having exams, right? But I can handle it lah, inshallah. Try my best. Okay, but I don't want to the kids just waste their time. They have no school, so at least like every day, half an hour, they learn something. Inshallah. Okay, let me just answer the questions here. So just went through some of the the adab of visiting graves, right? To sit there and then recite Quran, right? And send salams before you leave. Tamam. Okay. Let me see the reward the questions. There's so many questions. Okay, today we have Mariam Hadar class. Okay. Question here. Can we? Let's see. Okay, question. Okay, I'll tell you all again, your questions, you must put on, just put it in the open. Don't send your questions to me directly. Questions that are sent to me directly, I will not answer. Okay, gonna put your questions out in the open. Tamam. Uh, where is it? Wait, so many questions. I'm going backwards. Okay, all the way up. Okay, tamam. We're here. Right, so the people think ruling of woman falling into the grave is makruh. No, it's haram. Haram, Shafi Mazhab, haram. Haram. Even if it's makruh, why you want to do something makruh? Like, why? Right, the reading, the definition of makruh is, to stay away from it as far as you can. Right? It's not, things that are makruh in Islam, I think that they are disliked in Islam. The ruling is to stay away from it as far as you can. And if you really can't help it and you fall into it, it's not a sin, right? But it's not that you have a choice. It's not a choice. But to stay away from it as far as you can. Same thing like sunnah. The ruling of sunnah is to do of it as much as you can, right? But if you're unable to do it, there's no sin on you, right? But sunnah, our attitude towards makruh and sunnah needs to change. Like if something is makruh, you run away from it. You don't say, oh, it's only makruh and you do it. La, la, la. That's wrong. It's this very bad attitude towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you know that it's disliked and you still do it. Or you know the Prophet disliked it and you still do it. I bad adab, I bad etiquette. Right? Or sunnah, you know is the way of the Prophet and you ignore it. You couldn't care less. Right? So what kind of attitude is that towards the Prophet right? But sunnah means to do it out of it as much as you can. There's the meaning of sunnah. And the meaning of makruh is stay away from it as much as you can. It's a definition. Tamam. Okay, for widows, is this a sunnah or is it before the okay, for widows understood 4 months, 10 days, don't leave your house. Understood. Okay, widows, 4 months, 10 days, do not leave your house. There's no sunnah right, for you to go to the graves within the 4 months and this period. Right? Not you cannot go anywhere, right? That you don't have to go. Right? Stay in the house. Stay in the house. Don't go anywhere. Right? It's the law of Edda. Right? What is the right age for children to follow seeing the graves? I would say any age. As young as possible. Bring them and show them. Show them the graves. Explain to them death. As young as possible, because they must know the situation of life. As young as possible, bring them as young as possible. Even as a baby, bring them. What's wrong with that? Woman in menses, can you go see the grave? Yes, you can. It's not wrong. Right? But woman in menses, you're not allowed to take wudu. Right? So just go. Just go and what do you do at the grave? You're not allowed to read Surah Fatiha. You're not allowed to read any part of the Quran. Right? What you do is you do La ilaha illallah, in abundance. Okay? You do like 7,000 La ilaha illallah, do as much as you can. La ilaha illallah in abundance. We're not allowed to put in Quran. You're not allowed to recite the Quran. When Fatiha, no. Ikhlas, no. Ayatul Kursi, no. Yasin, no. All no. Right? For the woman on menses. Um, mm. Right. So understood. Right. About sitting or communicating with the elderly. What is someone you see them while in a large gathering, you don't only smile, or they're not going to talk so much to them, but maybe a bit shy. That's you're arrogant. Even though it didn't mean to be, how do you prevent yourselves from coming off as arrogant to others, though we don't intend to be, or should we just tell ourselves that Allah knows our intentions? Okay, basically, I don't know, but for me, basically, if you are warm towards people and you smile at them, and you just come up to them and say Assalamu alaikum, or make eye contact and do a slight nod, right, to them in their direction, that should dissipate any, misunderstanding that you're being arrogant. Especially if the gathering is full of people and they can see, obviously you can't get to them, right? It's full of people, the place, right? So like for me, I would just make eye contact, Hababa or my those who are elderly. I make eye contact with them and I give them a slight smile and a nod. I smile and a nod. I just have to acknowledge their presence. But if you can get to them to kiss their hand, right, to give salam to them, then do so. And if you do so, no one's going to think you're arrogant, right? But put in effort. I will say put in effort. Don't just say, "Oh, Allah knows my intentions." No, put in effort. We have to go over and beyond to prevent people from having bad opinions of us. And it is our duty. The Prophet himself would do so. I had to go over and beyond and work hard to prevent people from having bad opinions of us. Right. So you put in the effort now. Or you lift your hand a bit, raise your hand and like in a sense of like giving salams to them in that way. Tamam. Okay. Do we cut grass on the grave or do you leave it? Do zikir. You can leave the grass there. So it's just no law. You can leave the grass there. And the grass can do zikir for the people who have passed away. That is why in Asia, especially in the Muslim graveyards, they plant plants. It's very beautiful, mashallah, they plant plants there. Right. So, do that. Um, um Okay, if you're going to visit many, many graves, I can just give Fatiha to each of them. Yes, very much. You can just go past the grave or just go to the grave, give salams, give Fatiha, and then go on. Yes, then nothing is compulsory. And nothing is compulsory. It's recommended. Yani. Um, Okay, the question here about your discharge and stuff like that. You can refer to my classes online. This is a tricky question. You can refer to my classes online. The cases of menses. I do go through. I do go through that. Okay, so you can actually refer to the classes online. It's on my YouTube. Cases of menses. I go through the laws of of istinja. I go through the laws of discharge. You can find the answers there. I want to focus on the class, okay? So I'm not going to answer questions that are outside of the class. All right. If you want to read Surah Waqi'ah, you can do so as well. You know, I mean, you can read anything in the Quran. Literally, you can read anything from the Quran. It's up to you, right? It's just that for Yasin specifically, it is an instruction from the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, where he said, read Yasins over your deceased. He said that Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So we do Yasins, right? Because it's instruction from Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Like Surah Ra'ad also, Surah Ra'ad you recite on someone who is facing death, to make death easy on that person. You recite Surah Ra'ad. Okay, if you know Surah Waqi'ah and any surah that you have memorized, up to you. No problem. You can do whatever you want of the Quran. It's no problem. It's a form of comfort to the wife and female children of the janazah since they come to the burial. Is it okay for one of the men to record the burial? Is it permissible? Okay, why? 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 You know, if you really want comfort, a true comfort comes from reciting the Quran, not from seeing someone buried. Right? True comfort is in reciting Quran, and this means more to the deceased person. Like you love the deceased person, right? So what means more to the one who has passed away is that you recite Quran for them. Why do you want a video of them being buried? Why? Like, what does it benefit the person who has passed away? And how does it benefit you? Like, I mean, I don't know. If someone close to me passes away, I would like to watch videos of the person alive and the remnants and have no memories of them with me when they were alive. I don't know. I wouldn't want a video of them being buried. Why would you want that? Like, and more or less, you just, well, I mean, I do wonder. I do wonder. Why? Right? Just, do what is beneficial for you and for the one who's passed away. What brings most comfort to your heart is Quran. Nothing brings more comfort to your heart than Quran. If you can't do Quran because you're menses, then do dhikr. Do salawat and do dhikr. Nothing is more comforting to you and more beneficial for you and the one who's passed away than Quran and dhikr. Right? Taking a video and everything. Yani, why? Okay, the book's not translated, if I'm not wrong. I don't know whether it's translated or not. Doing the stones around the grave is permissible. Permissible. The ruling is it's in the book actually. Permissible. If you want to mark the grave to know from afar, what is which is your parents' grave, permissible. The ruling is permissible. Tamam. As I mentioned, that the laws of things are permissible until it's proven haram. Tamam. Okay, we'll stop there for today, inshallah. Barakallahu fikum. So I hope I answered all the questions. Right. Okay. If it's been translated, then you can go and find it lah. I don't know about the translation. Right. If it's been translated, you can find it. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة أن الله جل منافع وعمل واستعين من الهدى والسرير والرحمن من مشايخنا والزابر الحق علينا وإلى حضرة النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. الفاتحة. The class has no transcript. I'm not sure how you get transcript of the class, but it's on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube. But I don't have it. I'm not sure where to get transcripts. Okay, barakallahu fikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.